to our deep dive today. Um, I'm so excited about this one. We're taking a look at Eckhart Tolle's Practicing the Power of Now, a guide to, well, practicing the power of now. It's full of techniques drawn from his bigger work, The Power of Now.
It's a great choice. Tolle's work is all about recognizing that so much of our suffering comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, instead of truly experiencing this moment right now.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? I mean, I get the concept, but my mind is a nonstop train of thoughts, to-dos, and what-ifs. It feels like being swept away sometimes.
That's the thing, you're not alone. One of Tolle's key points is that we're not our thoughts. We can actually learn to observe those thoughts without getting carried away by them. He calls it watching the thinker.
So instead of getting lost in the thoughts, we can step back and just notice them.
Exactly. Imagine your mind is a highway, and your thoughts are the cars driving by. Instead of jumping into each car and going for a ride, you can stand on the side of the road and simply watch them pass. That's watching the thinker.
I can see how that could create some mental space, a break from the constant chatter. But how do we actually practice that?
Tolle suggests starting small. Next time you feel overwhelmed or stressed, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and simply observe your thoughts without judging them. Notice the space between those thoughts. That's where the power of the present moment starts to emerge.
Okay, so we're talking about tiny moments of awareness, little pockets of now throughout the day.
Yes. And another great technique is bringing that awareness to everyday activities. It's like turning those routines into mini meditation sessions.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. What are we talking about? Like brushing my teeth more mindfully?
Exactly. Feel the bristles on your gums, the taste of the toothpaste. Really experience the sensations of that moment. Or how about when you're walking? Pay attention to the feeling of your feet hitting the ground, the breeze on your skin, the sounds around you. These are all opportunities to anchor yourself in the present.
So it's about bringing mindful attention to things we usually do on autopilot. We're starting to see how we can weave presence into the fabric of our lives instead of it being this separate thing we have to try to find time for.
You're getting it. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. You'll find those gaps of stillness between your thoughts start to expand.
This is already making so much sense. But there's one thing I have to ask about fear. Fear is a big one for me, and it can definitely make it hard to stay present. I'm either replaying past mistakes or worrying about what's going to happen next.
Tolle has some really insightful things to say about fear. He connected that psychological fear, the kind that keeps us trapped in anxiety and worry, to the ego's fear of its own annihilation. It's a fear that constantly pulls us out of the present moment.
Wait, so fear is actually the ego trying to protect itself, even if it makes us miserable.
That's the irony. The ego thrives on worry and what-ifs because it reinforces the illusion that we're separate from the present moment, that we have to defend this idea of me against some future threat.
So if we can learn to disidentify from the ego, from that sense of me, as separate from everything else, would that help us break free from fear?
Exactly. It's not about getting rid of the ego entirely because it has its purpose in navigating the world. It's about seeing it for what it is and not letting it run the show. Remember, the ego is obsessed with the past and the future. It's never truly present.
That makes a lot of sense. Tolle has this one quote that's really stuck with me. Nothing ever happened in the past, it happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future, it will happen in the now.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? The past is just a memory. The future is a projection, but the now is where life is actually happening.
Okay, so I think I'm starting to see a theme here. It's all about shifting our focus, isn't it? It's about bringing our attention back to this present moment again and again, no matter what our thoughts are doing.
You're catching on quickly. It's about making a conscious choice to step out of the time dimension and experience the fullness of this moment as it is. Tolle has a great phrase for this, entering the now, and he provides several techniques for doing just that.
Okay, tell me more about these techniques. This is what I'm here for, the practical stuff.
One technique is simply to become aware of the mind's tendency to escape the present moment. Notice how it's always pulling you towards the past or future. Don't judge yourself for it, just observe it. That awareness itself is a step towards presence.
So it's like catching ourselves in the act of escaping the now, like, oh, there my mind goes again off to Tomorrowland.
Exactly. And another powerful technique is to pay attention to your reactions as much as the situations that cause them. This helps you differentiate between what's actually happening and your mind's interpretation of it.
So instead of just reacting automatically to something, we're creating space to notice, okay, this is happening and this is how I'm feeling about it.
You're getting it. That space between the event and your reaction is where you find choice.
This is making me think about something Tolle talks about finding the life underneath your life situation. Can you explain that a bit more? It sounds so intriguing.
He's making a distinction between your life situation, which is all the mental stories we tell ourselves, the worries we carry, the dramas we create, and your actual life, which is happening right now in this very moment.
It's like there's this whole other level of experience going on beneath the surface of our thoughts and worries.
Yes. And Tolle suggests that we can access this deeper level of life by entering the now.
Okay, so this is what we're really getting at, the techniques for actually entering the now. You mentioned observing the mind's tendency to escape and paying attention to our reactions. What else can we do?
Another powerful practice is to engage your senses fully. Really see, hear, feel, taste, smell whatever's happening right now.
It's like using our senses to anchor ourselves in the present moment.
Exactly. Instead of letting your mind wander, bring your attention to the details of your immediate experience. What colors do you see? What sounds do you hear? What sensations do you feel in your body? This helps you to step out of the time dimension and into the richness of team.
I love how practical that is. It's something we can do anywhere, anytime.
And as you practice these techniques, you'll start to experience the joy of being, a sense of ease and lightness that arises naturally when you're fully present.
Tolle mentions a test we can use to gauge our presence in the night. Now, right, something about joy, ease, and lightness.
Yes.
Yeah.
He suggests asking yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I'm doing? If not, it's a sign that psychological time has crept back in and you've lost touch with the present moment.
That's so helpful. It's like a little reminder we can use throughout the day. But what about all that negative background static Tolle talks about? That low-level unease, boredom, or tension that seems to be there even when things are going relatively well. How do we work with that?
That's where things get really interesting. Tolle suggests that this ordinary unconsciousness, this background negativity, is actually something we can learn to dissolve by bringing awareness to it. It's like shining a light into those dark corners of our minds.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? How do we shine a light on those subtle, often unnoticed forms of negativity? It feels like they're just there, part of the background noise of life.
He recommends making it a regular practice to check in with yourself throughout the day. Just pause and ask yourself, am I at ease in this moment? What's going on inside me right now?
So we're becoming inner detectives, investigating our own thoughts and feelings. But what if we discover that we're not at ease? What then?
That's when you look for any signs of resistance to the present moment. Resistance can show up in all sorts of ways, like impatience, judgment, or wishing things were different than they are.
So it's not just about noticing big, obvious sources of stress. It's about being aware of those subtle ways we try to escape the nabl. Now, even when there's no major crisis going on.
Exactly. Tolle emphasizes that we can unconsciously resist the present moment in so many ways. It might be dwelling on the past, replaying old hurts or regrets, or it could be constantly projecting ourselves into the future, worrying about what might happen.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that. My mind is a master at time travel, usually to places I'd rather not revisit.
But remember, the past is gone and the future isn't here yet. The only place where life is truly happening is in this present moment. And the more we can anchor ourselves in the body now, the less power those mental time trips have over us.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. It seems like a lot of Tolle's techniques involve bringing our attention back to the body. Is that a deliberate strategy?
Absolutely. He sees the body as an incredibly powerful anchor to the present moment. Remember, the mind loves to wander, but the body is always here.
So it's not just about thinking our way to presence, but feeling our way there.
Exactly. Tolle encourages us to become aware of the sensations in our bodies, the energy that's always flowing through us.
Okay, I'm curious. What are some practical ways to connect with the body?
One simple practice is to bring your attention to your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the feeling of the air entering and leaving your nostrils. You can also do a body scan, bringing your awareness to different parts of your body, noticing any sensations that are present.
That sounds really grounding. What about those deeper layers of unconsciousness, though, the emotional baggage we carry from the past? How does Tolle suggest we work with that?
This is where the concept of the pain body comes in. Tolle describes it as an accumulation of emotional pain from the past that lives in our minds and bodies almost like an invisible entity.
Whoa, that sounds intense. So it's like we're carrying around this unseen weight of past pain.
Yes, and this pain body can be triggered by certain situations or even thoughts that resonate with those past wounds.
Okay, let's say we become aware of our pain body. What do we do with it? How do we heal it? Ignoring it doesn't seem like a great option.
Tolle's approach is to bring conscious awareness to the pain body. He says the pain body doesn't want you to observe it directly and see it for what it is. The moment you observe the pain body, feel its energy field within you, and take your attention into it, the identification is broken.
So it's about facing the pain, not running from it.
Exactly. He emphasizes that we shouldn't judge or analyze the pain, but simply observe it with a compassionate awareness.
This is starting to sound a lot like mindfulness meditation. Just bringing gentle awareness to whatever arises without getting swept away by it.
You're catching on. The key is to become the watcher, the observer, rather than getting lost in the pain. Instead of saying, I am angry, try saying, I notice there's anger present in my body.
So we're creating some space between ourselves and the pain.
Yes. And as we practice this, the pain body begins to lose its grip on us. We start to see it as a temporary energy pattern, not who we are.
That makes so much sense. But what if the pain is really intense, really overwhelming? Does this technique still work then?
Tolle acknowledges that it's not always easy to face intense pain. He says, when your pain is deep, all talk of surrender will probably seem futile and meaningless anyway. When your pain is deep, you will likely have a strong urge to escape from it rather than surrender to it.
That's so relatable. When the pain hits hard, it's natural to want to run away, numb it out somehow.
But Tolle reminds us that there's no real escape from the pain. He says there are many pseudo-escapes work, drink drugs, anger, suppression, and so on, but they don't free you from the pain. Suffering does not diminish in intensity when you make it unconscious.
So we're back to facing the pain even when it's really intense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? It sounds so scary.
Tolle offers this guidance. When there is no way out, there is still always a way through. So don't turn away from the pain. Face it. Feel it fully. Feel it. Don't think about it. Express it if necessary, but don't create a script in your mind around it. Give all your attention to the feeling, not to the person, event, or situation that seems to have caused it.
It's about allowing the pain to be there, without resistance, without judgment. But doesn't that just make the pain worse?
Tolle suggests the opposite. He says that by fully experiencing the pain, by bringing the light of our awareness to it, we actually begin to transmute it. It's like using the fire of our awareness to burn away the pain.
Wow, that's powerful imagery. But how do we know if it's working? Are there any signs that we're actually transmuting the pain?
You might notice that the pain starts to shift or change in some way. It might lose its intensity, or you might experience a sense of peace or even liberation within the midst of the pain.
That's incredible. It's like we're discovering a wellspring of strength within ourselves that we never knew existed.
And Tolle even goes so far as to say that this process of facing and surrendering to pain can be a pathway to enlightenment.
Whoa. So our greatest challenges, our deepest pains, can actually be opportunities for spiritual growth.
That's the paradox Tolle points to. By surrendering to what we most resist, we open ourselves to a deeper level of being.
It's like those intense experiences force us to wake up, to see beyond the illusions of the ego, to tap into something much greater than ourselves.
Exactly. And in those moments of surrender, we may even experience the truth of our own indestructible nature, the essence of who we are beyond the pain and suffering.
Okay, this is all so mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But one question keeps coming up for me. Tolle talked a lot about choice. But if so much of our behavior is driven by unconscious patterns and conditioning, how do we actually have a choice?
That's a deep question, and Tolle doesn't shy away from it. He suggests that true choice actually arises when we start to disidentify from the mind and its conditioned patterns, when we become more present.
So it's like reclaiming our power to choose from all that unconscious programming.
Exactly. Until we reach that point of presence, we're almost sleepwalking through life, reacting in predictable ways based on past conditioning. We might think we're making choices, but they're often just echoes of old patterns and beliefs.
Okay, that makes sense. But it also raises another question for me. If we're not really choosing our actions in that mind-identified state, how can we be held responsible for them? It feels like a bit of a paradox.
It is a paradox. Tolle acknowledges that. He suggests that even though we might not be consciously choosing our actions when we're totally lost in the mind, we still experience the consequences of those actions.
So it's like we're learning through trial and error, even if those trials are often painful.
Yes, and that suffering, he believes, can eventually motivate us to wake up. It pushes us towards the need for greater consciousness, for true choice.
It's like the pain becomes a catalyst for spiritual growth, pushing us towards the light of awareness, where we can actually start to see the choices that are available to us.
That's a great way to put it. And as we become more present, more aware of our thoughts and patterns, we start to see the choices that were always there, even if we were oblivious to them before. It's like a whole new world of possibilities opens up.
It's not about becoming perfect, though, right? We're still going to mess up sometimes.
Of course, we're human. But that's where forgiveness comes in, both for ourselves and for others. Tolle points out that so much of our behavior is driven by those unconscious patterns. When we can see that, it becomes much easier to let go of blame and resentment.
So instead of beating ourselves up or getting angry at someone else, we can recognize that we were all doing the best we could with the level of awareness we had at the time. That's such a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. And in those moments of forgiveness, we might even catch a glimpse of our true nature, the essence of who we are, beyond all those limiting stories and patterns.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools for working with my mind and my emotions.
And remember, it's not about mastering these techniques overnight. It's an ongoing practice, a commitment to cultivating presence in every moment as best you can. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
So true. If you could choose one small change to make in your daily routine to cultivate more presence, what would it be? Remember, you have the power to transform your life starting right now. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the power of now.